Hey guys, what is up? It is the Fast Break Report here, bringing you guys another vlog. So, we're finally in the era of the NBA where go to any team you want is no longer the case. It would appear as if trade talks have stalled between the Clippers and the 76ers on a James Harden trade. And we got Damian Lillard coming out saying he would only report to training camp for a team like Miami or Portland. Like the Minnesota, like basically if you're like the Minnesota Timberwolves and you trade for Damian Lillard, while Damian Lillard's not going, you know what I'm saying? Like he's not playing ball. And for years, it really felt like if a player wanted to go somewhere, they got there. You know what I'm saying? Like salary cap wasn't a problem. Well, now players are getting paid so much money that salary cap is a problem, okay? And when you include the new CBA, teams now have to consider, like, is taking on this player worth going over the first or second apron of the CBA tax? And once you get into that I guess luxury tax threshold or whatever, or that first or second apron, shit becomes very, very difficult to accomplish. And I think we're seeing a change in the NBA for the better, to be honest with you, because the one good thing about this is I can't say there won't ever be super teams ever again in the NBA. But this definitely makes it harder to do. Like we look at the Los Angeles Clippers right now. They have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard both making $45 million plus a year, and they're great players, but it hasn't amounted to anything. You know what I'm saying? Like they get injured all the time, and not only I think they're past the second apron as well, just because of those two players eating up so much salary cap space. And really, if you're a team in the NBA looking to improve or put something around what you already have, you really gotta tread lightly. I think, I've always admired certain players in NBA history for taking less money to win more. Guys like all the Spurs guys, right? Like Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili. I know Tim Duncan actually took less money to go back to San Antonio so they could pay like Tony Parker, or they could pay Manu Ginobili, or one of those guys. Like they were a true team unit. You know what I'm saying? But like I don't really see guys doing that in like Golden State. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't see Steph Curry taking less money, and granted he shouldn't have to because he's the best player on that team. But look at Draymond Green. Look at Klay Thompson. These are two guys that are basically going to have to take less money if they want to actually stay there and win. And Draymond eventually had to. But like the good teams that are set up that way, the teams that are like, hey, like we got three good players, you're going to start seeing more of that. You're going to start seeing more of guys taking less money just to keep their units together. Granted, Milwaukee is not one of those teams, and right now Giannis is throwing a shit fit because he got bounced by the Miami Heat, but I digress. It's just the idea the Bucks are still a good team. Are they going to be like the world hurter that they were before? No, probably not. I'm actually a little worried about the Bucks this year. They're a team that I'm looking at and I'm like, a lot of other teams got better, and the Bucks didn't really do much of shit but bring back guys that they already had. So I look at the Bucks and I'm like, they'll be okay. I actually think Boston got worse to some extent, only because Porzingis already had to sit out for the FIBA World Basketball Classic, or for FIBA, because of a leg injury. Malcolm Brogdon is not exactly a model of health either. And now you have Porzingis and you have Brogdon. They just paid Jaylen Brown a whole ass load of money, which, a lot of people are saying that he's worth it, but I'm still very skeptical on it. I feel like we're in an NBA now where it's like, you really gotta watch how you pay guys at this point. Like, we're at a point now where you can't just go out and just fucking splurge on a guy because you feel like splurging on him. For example, everybody was saying Karl Anthony Towns is overpaid. Well, now, after the past few weeks or whatever, Karl Anthony Towns is actually like kind of almost like a fucking bargain deal, it seems, in the NBA. You know, you got what, Jaylen Brown inking $300 million, right? If I'm correct, Jaylen Brown contract. Yeah, $303 million for Jaylen Brown. You know what I'm saying? Like, and this is the idea. You look at Karl Anthony Towns at 224, and you're like, wow, okay, like I thought that was a lot of bread, you know? And there's a lot of teams in the NBA that are going to find themselves in salary cap hell in the next couple of years. The Celtics being one of them. This is where, like, it's kind of a great spot for young building teams to be in. Teams like the Pacers, teams like the Utah Jazz, teams like the Oklahoma City Thunder. This is a great spot for them to be in because it's like they can draft talent and say, okay, like the good thing I've always said with rookies, and I don't know why more teams don't do this, but like even DeAndre Ayton's contract, everyone, like when DeAndre Ayton came out, oh, he's overpaid. Okay, he's overpaid compared to who? You know what I'm saying? Like what? He's got 4 years, $133 million. He's too expensive compared to Jaylen Brown, compared to like guys who just got a whole ass ton of money. Like I just think to myself, man, like no matter how expensive you think a player is, down the road, like that's gonna be a drop in the fucking bucket. Okay. It's just the idea, like right now we're at a time where even if you're the Pacers and you pull off a trade for DeAndre Ayton, you are still not in the worst position in the world salary cap wise. You know, like teams like OKC, teams like Utah, you have a lot of young talent, and you might even be able to convince them to take less because they're coming off of rookie deals. You know, you could tell them, hey, this is what you're worth. Okay, unless they have their agent in their ear telling them something different, which is more than often likely the case. But it's just the idea. It's like, hey, you might be able to snag a guy for maybe $5 to $10 million a year cheaper than he maybe normally would be because he's a young guy and you're bringing him in and you want to bring him back. You know, fortunately in those situations, the organization has a little bit more leverage than the player does. But it's just the idea, like, I feel like we're in an NBA now where every player believes they're worth, like, an ass ton of money, and I get it with the new CBA, the way money's working. Yeah, like, it's kind of true. You know what I'm saying? Like there's certain guys that I see get paid, and I'm like Dillon Brooks. Dillon Brooks got paid. I didn't think he was worth that. You know what I'm saying? But that's the NBA that we're in now. Guys like Dillon Brooks command, you know, an insane amount of money a year just for being a fucking defender. You know, he's not even a good offensive player. But I definitely think the NBA is in a different climate now where teams can't just go out and splurge money on guys and say, okay, this is our championship roster. You know, you're going to start seeing teams that's like the teams that want to win, the teams with guys on it that want to win and stay together are going to take less money to be there. We've seen it with Golden State to an extent already. Draymond Green wanted like $100 million. He settled on 80, if I'm correct. Klay Thompson's going to be the same deal. You know, like Klay Thompson's a guy whose contract is coming up at the end of the summer, and he's a guy that it's like, yeah, he might think he's old Klay Thompson, and you know what? He might even be old Klay Thompson. But the thing is, like, do you want to stay and play with Draymond and Steph, or do you want to go someplace else and make an ass ton of money, and maybe not win? You know what I'm saying? Where I think Golden State maybe gives him the best chance to win out of a lot of teams. Or do a sign and trade thing. I really don't know how that's going to work with Klay Thompson. I think Klay Thompson will stay there. That's just my opinion because Dre and Steph have stayed there. But on the flip side of the coin, you have teams like the Bucks where Giannis is now saying, oh, I'll play for somebody else because we lost to the fucking Miami Heat. So the NBA is definitely in a weird situation at the moment. And, you know, we got a lot of guys coming out and saying that, like, you know, They want to play here, they want to play here, they want to play there, and we're not in that. We're kind of getting out of that. You know what I'm saying? Just because Damian Lillard wants to play in Miami doesn't mean he's going to get to actually play in Miami. Just because James Harden, you know, wants to go play for his 18th fucking team doesn't mean that 18th team is going to be the one he gets to go to. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, definitely going to be an interesting next couple years until this CBA expires, and I feel like it's only going to get worse. Like, if you want my closing thoughts on this, it's the idea that these CBA agreements are only going to get more strict and more strict and more strict to make the league more competitive, to make it so one team just can't have all the guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we look at Miami, granted, they did the right thing. You know, they signed Jimmy Butler. They drafted Bam Adebayo. They drafted Tyler Hero. But they're a team also that's now in salary cap hell. And they're in salary cap hell and can't add anything else to their roster because of how much money they're paying Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero. You know, they need another piece. You know, they're a team that's like they need something better than Tyler Hero, and now they can't make it happen because what they have to offer the Blazers is simply just not attractive enough for the Blazers to say yes. And then same thing with James Harden. James Harden is not the player he used to be, and the idea that this dude changes teams every day like women change underwear, he is no longer doesn't have the value that he thinks he has. So, you know, there's a lot of that going on in the NBA as well. Like Ben Simmons is a guy that's like going to be coming up on a contract year here in the next couple years. Hopefully by then, I think we'll be halfway through the CBA I think the CBA happens in 4-year intervals. I could be wrong, but it's just the idea like Ben Simmons is going to be another guy looking to get paid soon. So we got to see what he's going to do this year and the year after. But it's just the idea. The NBA is going to change, man. Like the Minnesota Timberwolves are a team that's in a spot where it's like they paid Anthony Edwards, they paid Karl Anthony Towns, and they paid Rudy Gobert. They're going to have to get rid of somebody if they want to add more depth to that roster in order for it to actually be competitive or be a championship team. And I know that feels weird to say that Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, and Anthony Edwards is not a championship team, but it's not. It doesn't have enough depth. So they're going to have to unload, most likely, Karl Anthony Towns because that team learned how to play without Karl Anthony Towns when he got injured last season. So it's just the idea, like, a lot of teams also another thing about this is teams are going to be looking to offload guys who they're paying a lot of money to that doesn't make them a championship team. You really shouldn't be paying luxury tax or be over the luxury tax if you're not a team competing for a title. Granted, I tend to believe most teams should go over the luxury tax because it gives them the ability to actually compete, but there are some instances where it's like, you know, maybe you're just not there yet. Why are you going to pay luxury tax if you're not competing for a championship? You know what I'm saying? So the Indiana Pacers and the Herb Simon family have kind of had that sentiment for a long time now, and it's part of the reason I feel like our team has kind of been ass at the same time. But just the idea, this year is going to be a different year. A lot of teams got better, but the new CBA has changed the NBA, I think, and you're going to start seeing a lot of teams looking to move guys, get off of contracts, get off expiring contracts, get off of bad contracts quicker than not because they realize that like the tax apron is now a thing, and if they want to compete, they got to free up some cap space in order to actually add depth to their roster. So tell me what you guys think about this down below in the comment section below. Helps me out, subscribe if you guys want to see more. I'm the Fast Break Report, and out of this motherfucker. Peace, guys.